I really love the way magic works in D&D.
What do you mean, Ted? What are you getting at?
You remember the earlier edition where wizards just had so few spell slots?
Spell slots. They didn't even have spell slots. They had spells. You cast one magic missile and you're done for the day. Yeah, it was rough back in those days. Now we have unlimited cantrips.
Do you think that there's a best choice for each class with cantrips?
I do. Let's discuss best cantrips for Dungeons & Dragons by character class. Welcome to Nerdarchy for nerds by nerds. I'm Nerdarchist Dave, and as usual, I'm hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchist Ted.
Maybe it's your first time visiting Ted's basement. It's a place where we like to talk about news, views, and homebrews for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Sometimes we even talk about other role-playing games.
So if you don't want to miss a single video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and attune to that notification bell.
All right, so we've been doing best spells by tier. We've been kind of ignoring cantrips, but we have had several requests of, can you cover cantrips? And I was like, yes, we can.
It's easy enough to do. We're going to pinpoint right here by class which are the best cantrips that you can be able to choose.
Yeah, we're just going to pick one for each. And, obviously there's a lot of great choices, but we'll tell you as we go through and why we consider these ones the best for that particular class.
And I know you're OCD with, alphabetical order. So we're going to start off with Bard, and that's going to be Vicious Mockery. Vicious Mockery, casting time and action, range 60 feet. It only requires a verbal component, which is nice. Instantaneous enchantment. It's got a wisdom save, and the effect is psychic. You unleash a string of insults laced with subtle enchantments at a creature you can see within range. If the target can hear you, though it need not understand you, it must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or take 1d4 psychic damage and have disadvantage on the next attack roll it makes before the end of its next turn. The spell goes up by a d4 at 5th, 11th, and 17th.
Yeah, Vicious Mockery is a great spell. I feel like in 5e D&D, it is very iconic for the Bard. It's also kind of funny because you're insulting them so bad that you're doing damage to them. It's a debuff. It's a good option for a Bard.
I really like it, and I've seen players of variety of age and levels, really get into the spell. And because it's a cantrip, get access to it right away. And that magic initiate, you can go ahead and steal from another class and get access to be able to mock people whenever you want.
I also feel like it incites role-playing during combat like no other thing in the game. So it's a great choice. So next we're going to go to Cleric. Cleric, we actually grabbed a couple choices, and one of them being Guidance. It's a divination spell. It takes one action to cast, range is touch, duration is 1 minute. You touch one willing creature. Once before the spell ends, the target can roll a d4 and add the number rolled to one ability check of its choice. It can roll that die before, after it makes ability check. The spell then ends. It's actually a really good buff spell that's a cantrip whenever you're making skill checks. So I felt like it had to go on somebody's list somewhere.
While it's somewhat cheesy, I have had, players, who decide they were going to be a cleric. It's like, oh, I'm constantly praying. I'm casting guidance nonstop every minute. And it's like, really?
That's all I do. I just guide.
So it's pretty amusing. And while it can be overused, but d4 added whenever you really need to make that roll. Pretty nice. But next we're going to go with something very iconic for what the cleric typical, is, and that's going to be Spare the Dying. Casting time of an action, it's touch, verbal somatic, duration instantaneous, it's necromancy, there's no attack, and it's a healing effect. You touch a living creature that has 0 hit points, the creature becomes stable. This spell has no effect on undead or constructs. Pretty simple, but with death saves being so harsh, if you roll that 1, is really useful and highly recommended that, you get that out there and make sure that they're living.
I feel like, some people are going to be like, well, why wouldn't you just cast a healing spell? What if 2 of your allies go down? So you bonus action, healing word 1, boom, they're back up. And as your action, you use this cantrip, and that one is stabilized. So you don't have to worry about them dying immediately, at least.
And the other reason is, what if you're out of spells?
There's that too. Maybe you had a rough day of adventuring and you're out of spells. So there's definitely some reasons to have it. And it just feels like something that should be in every cleric's repertoire. So now we're going to jump into the Druid. And again, we have 2 choices, one of which being Magic Stone and the other being
Produce Flame.
Magic Stone is a great spell from earlier editions. I know it was one of your favorites.
I loved Magic Stone. I used it all the time.
It is a bonus action to cast, range touch, duration 1 minute, no concentration. You touch 1 to 3 pebbles and imbue them with magic. You or someone else can make a ranged spell attack with one of the pebbles by throwing it or hurling it with a sling. If thrown, it has a range of 60 feet. If someone else attacks with the pebble, the attacker adds your spellcasting ability modifier, not the attacker's, to the attack roll. On a hit, the target takes bludgeoning damage equal to die 6 plus your spellcasting ability modifier. Hit or miss, the spell ends on the stone. If you cast a spell again, the spell ends early on any pebbles still in effect. And this is one of the few cantrips that is technically an attack spell that doesn't scale, but it's got some use to it. It's got some utility. And the fact that you don't have to be the one to throw them, you can give it to an ally to do it.
A lot of fun. And, you can cast it and be able to pull it up later. Produce Flame, casting time is an action. Range is self. It's got verbal somatic. Duration is 10 minutes. It's conjuration. It's ranged. Obviously, it's fire. A flickering flame appears in your hand. The flame remains there for the duration and harms neither you nor your equipment. The flame sheds bright light in a 10-foot radius and dim light for an additional 10 feet. The spell ends if you dismiss it as an action or if you cast it again. You can also attack with the flame, although doing so ends the spell. When you cast the spell or as an action on a later turn, you can hurl the flame at a creature within 30 feet of you, make a ranged spell attack. On a hit, the target takes 1d8 fire damage, and the damage goes up by a d8 at 5th, 11th, and 17th.
So what I really like about this spell is, one, you could use it in melee, or you could use it as a ranged attack, or you can use it as a light source, or just lighting fires if you need to. So I feel like it's got more use to it.
So as a cantrip, you've got to be able to produce a flame, a light, and then should you get into combat, you already have a weapon at hand. But you know where else you can find magic, Dave?
Where's that, Ted?
Over on the Nerdarchy merch store.
It's true. We've got all kinds of nerdy stuff over there, from coffee mugs, baseball caps, and, of course, nerdy t-shirts.
So if you want to get yourself some Nerdarchy swag, look at the link down in the description.
Stay nerdy all the time. All right, next up, we're going to go to Sorcerer. We've got 2 choices there once again. We went with Poison Spray as well as Shocking Grasp. Poison Spray is an action to cast, range of 10 feet, it is instantaneous. You extend your hand toward a creature you can see within range and project a puff of noxious gas from your palm. The creature must succeed a Constitution saving throw or take a die 12 points of damage. This spell's damage increases by 12 when you reach 5th, 11th, and 17th, going all the way up to 40, 12. Normally, this is a spell that looks good on the surface, but is kind of harsh for your wizard or any other casters where you have to get within 10 feet of the enemy and maybe you're kind of squishy. But the reason why I like Poison Spray for the Sorcerer is because it can pair really nicely with meta magics, especially the distance spell. Now you can hit somebody at 20 feet away. It does decent damage. You're attacking their con save. If you want to have a variety of different saves to attack, it makes a good one.
So I'm looking at Shocking Grasp. It's an action, it's touch, verbal somatic, instantaneous evocation, it's melee, however you want to, and lightning. So lightning springs from your hand to deliver a shock to a creature you try to touch. Making a melee spell attack against the target, you have advantage on the attack roll if the target is wearing armor made of metal. On a hit, the target takes 1d8 lightning damage, and it can't take reactions until the start of its next turn. And again, as most cantrips do, it scales by an extra d8 at 5th, 11th, and 17th.
All right, so one of the reasons why I really like those choices is both of them will benefit greatly from meta magics. Distance, now your Shocking Grasp is a ranged spell out to 30 feet, or you can twin either of them. You can touch 2 people with it, and the same thing with Poison Spray. You can add to the distance, as we said, or you can twin it, so you get a lot more bang for your buck. That's why we chose those in particular cantrips for Sorcerer, because we felt like they paired really well with Sorcerer meta magics. All right, so Warlock, we really just went with one, and that is because they have the best attack cantrip in the game. It does force damage. It does a die 10. You can get multiple beams. The Warlock themselves have ways to make this particular cantrip much better. Yes, you've probably guessed that we are talking about Eldritch Blast. So it's an action to cast, range of 120 feet, also really good. Duration instantaneous. A beam of crackling energy streaks towards a creature within range. Make a ranged spell attack against the target. On hit, the target takes 1d10 force damage. The spell creates more than one beam when you reach higher levels. 2 beams at 5th, 3 beams at 11th, 4 beams at 17th, and you can direct the beams at the same target or different ones. Make a separate attack roll for each beam.
Now, I think the extra beams, while it does offer, more chances of missing, it equally offers more chances at critting.
And hitting, just in general. So it's not all or nothing. So that all those factors just kind of combine to make it one of the best attack cantrips in the game.
So I'm going to go over to Wizard, and, while Wizard, does a lot of great things, they've got access to so many attack cantrips. I actually feel that the use of Prestidigitation far outweighs the attack cantrip. So that's the one that we've selected for the best wizard cantrip. An action to cast, range is 10 feet, verbal somatic, duration is an hour, it's transmutation, there's no attack, and its effect is utility. This spell is a minor magical trick that a novice spellcasters use for practice. You create one of the following magical effects within range. You create an instantaneous harmless sensory effect such as a shower of sparks, a puff of wind, faint musical notes, or an odd odor. You instantly snuff out a candle, a torch, or a small campfire, or you can use the same effect to light it. You instantaneously clean or soil an object no larger than 1 cubic foot. You chill, warm, or flavor up to 1 cubic foot of non-living material for 1 hour. You make a color, a small mark, or a symbol appear on an object or a surface for 1 hour. You create a non-magical trinket or illusionary image that can fit in your hand that lasts until the end of your next turn. If you cast a spell multiple times, you can have up to 3 of its non-instantaneous effects active at a time, and you can dismiss such an effect as an action. Oh my word, the options that this gives you are just amazing.
So I like it for different reasons. I just feel like Prestidigitation is very iconic for the wizard, and fantasy tropes in general. All the things that you can do, it comes up over and over again in all sorts of media. So for that reason, I think that makes it the perfect spell for any wizard to take.
I love it, and I would be hard pressed to create a wizard that didn't have that.
So with that, what do you think? What are your favorite cantrips? We got a place we can talk about it down in the comments below. But before you head on out, I want to invite you to join the Nerdarchy Adventuring Party over on Patreon. Ted, what can they expect over there?
We're creating products for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons every month for both players and DMs alike that you can drop right in your game.
But that's not all. Every month we hold a giveaway, and our patrons get entered into that giveaway automatically.
We also have our weekly hangouts with our patrons and more.
Quest on down to the description, join the Nerdarchy Adventuring Party, and until next time,
Stay nerdy.